I just finished reading a Stephen King nonfiction book, but it was not on writing. Instead, it was Danse Macabre, which he published in April of 1981, and this is the 10th book that I read in my challenge to read all of his books in publication order. This book is essentially Stephen King researching and fangirling over the horror genre as a whole, be it in movies, TV, books, and even radio. Given that this book was published in the early 80s, the content that it focuses on are the classics through like the mid 70s, and honestly that's probably the biggest drawback for me. I feel like I really would have appreciated this book more had I been alive to read it in the early 80s. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, because he talks about a lot of classics like Dracula and Frankenstein, and then when we move into radio, he's talking about War of the Worlds, and then in movies we've got like the iconic things like The Omen and Rosemary's Baby. He actually also talks about the book Rosemary's Baby, which I haven't read, but it was cool to see him talk about the classic stuff that I do know. The other downside to this book was the fact that it's pretty long-winded. Like, it has pictures in it sometimes, but the chapters are very long, and he goes on some very deep rabbit holes in this book. But I'll tell you how I got past that. About a third of the way through, I decided to listen to the audiobook instead. And honestly, that made this so much more enjoyable. I know Stephen King didn't narrate the audiobook, but while I was listening to it, it felt like I was listening to Stephen King do a podcast where he was just talking about his favorite horror stories and why he thinks the horror genre is important to society. I don't know, it was just a lot more enjoyable for me to enjoy this content that way versus literally like 100 pages that look like this and add up to one chapter. I would recommend this book probably in audio form if you are like a diehard classic horror fan, or if you're just really into Stephen King and you want to hear him ramble about what he finds scary. But I will say that I'm very happy that my next several reads by him are fiction.